Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio in Oliver Springs, Tennessee. It's 2023 and we're excited to start another year of videos keeping you informed on the latest and the greatest in motorcycle audio. So reflect back real quick. A year ago, we introduced to you the Soundstream HDHU14 and it was a phenomenal year. Thanks to you, we were so blessed and so many of those radios were sold and they were everything that we thought they would be, and it was an awesome year. In that video though, I spoke about a future model. A model that would retain boom audio amplifiers and HD audio by Rockford amps and gauge retention and other data features, and it is here, the HDHU14SI. So excited to make this video. We're going to go over all the features. We're going to install it in 3 different bikes, and at the end, I'm going to do a direct comparison with all the existing radios, including your probably most common question, how does it compare to the GTS radio? So hang out, watch the entire video, and you'll be an expert on this new radio. All right, so the easiest way for me to show you everything this radio does is to put it in a bike, and I've got 3 lined up that we're going to be shooting a couple different scenes here and show you. I'm working currently on a 2022 CVO Roadglide. I wanted to show you a pinnacle bike. This is the best bike you can buy at a Harley dealer, would be your CVO, and they all come factory with HD audio by Rockford. Our business toward the last half of this year has moved into upgrading this audio system more than anything else because people are so dissatisfied with the overall volume and clarity of the HD audio by Rockford. We got a solution for you. This radio retains it and makes it sound so much better. So many other features too. So let's swap our camera angle. I want you to see this screen as I go through the different options with you, and then we'll listen to it with the new radio in it. All right, let's turn on this radio. Now keep in mind this 2022 CVO came factory with the GTS radio, which looks very similar. But I'm going to go over some options on this radio that I believe make it a much better radio for this bike. Again, we started with the fact it's HD audio by Rockford, and I'll go through some sound options for you, but let's start with our home screen. So if you notice here, we've added several new features that the HDHU14 didn't have, one of which is Sirius XM with an SXV300 tuner. Sirius XM is going to work. It's a very inexpensive part to add versus paying the $400 plus that Harley wants to add it to the factory radio. We also have motorcycle info, and I want to jump there and show you this. And I want to specifically talk about this first because this is a 2022 CVO, and we know on 20, 21, and 22, right now idatalink, which is the partner with Soundstream to make this radio, they're the people who handle all the data and the gauges. They're working on a firmware revision that should be out in the next couple of weeks to fix an issue where it doesn't currently display gauges. But I want to show you it displays everything that you would need to see currently, even without that. So we have EITMS here, and we can see if it's on. We can also roll our throttle forward because our ignition is on, and we should be able to see EITMS go off or on by doing this. Let me do this again. As you see, EITMS just went off. So I activated it, I just unactivated it. The way you do that is with your throttle roll off. So EITMS displays properly, something that a lot of people asked about on the previous radio. We have our air pressure, 36 PSI in the front, 40 in the back. If we pull our brake, you'll see our brake lights light up. Turn signals are going to indicate that our turn signals are on. We do have some front lights disconnected currently, so it's flashing a little fast. You see our turn signals. We also have indicator for our high beams, low beams. We also have our check engine. Right now the check engine light's on. We do have the fairing off. Some things are unplugged. And you'll see it says check oil. It is monitoring oil pressure right now. All right, so when you fire the engine up, it's going to see oil pressure and the check oil indicator is going to go away. It's also, if you were to lose oil pressure while riding, this is custom firmware that's only in this radio. You're going to have a pop-up screen that comes up that says check oil. If you get low on fuel, it's also going to pop up like the factory radio and tell you that you're low on fuel. These are things that no other radio, if you get another brand radio, even if it's idatalink Maestro compatible, it's not going to have those features. The guys at Soundstream have covered every basis of what we need. Now, voltage, gear indicator, air pressure, check engine light. We can actually go in and we can read the check engine light codes. So we can see our current codes. We can then look into what they are. Those are body codes related to what we've done with the radio. We can reset those codes, and it'll ask you if you want to do that. We can do that. We can reset them. Once we start the bike up, you'll see it's cleared. So we can do that right on screen. So you have a full OBD2 code reader. It'll display it and reset it from the radio. Okay, so the next option, I want to show you also, all of this is done by what I'm going to call advanced thumb controls. So the HDHU14 Plus, which we've been using for the last year, has basic thumb controls. It does radio functionality only. With advanced thumb controls, we can actually use the buttons on our thumb controls to bring up gauges. To actually, I'll show you here in a little while, we have cursor control through Apple CarPlay, which is huge too. So currently we have voltage. We can build custom gauges for tire pressure and such that'll display here. But in a couple weeks, when we get the new update from idatalink, all of these gauges are going to be customizable, and there'll be 2 pages of them that will function even on the new 2021, 22 CVO bikes. So until then, just in the next couple weeks, we're not going to see this populate if you have a 20, 21, or 22. It's very easy to reflash this module. It doesn't require any special tools, and we'll be making a video to show you exactly how to do this. We'll keep you completely up to date, and we'll walk you through getting these to work if you have that newer bike. But let's go to the really important part to me. Everything that your original radio displayed is still displayed. The HD audio by Rockford is still working, and it sounds a lot better than it did originally because of some other features. So let's go to those features. I want to show them to you. The reason it sounds better is we don't have to deal with the one Harley flash that worked for Rockford. We can actually go in now, and without having to flash a radio at all, our amp is on, and we have EQ settings. We have a 13-band equalizer that we can custom adjust the way that the HD Audio by Rockford system sounded, and you could not do that from the factory. We also have the most important part, the ability to turn on crossovers. So we can turn on a high-pass filter, and what the high-pass filter does is it's actually going to take bass out of these HD Audio by Rockford speakers. And when I say bass, I'm talking subwoofer bass that it could not play factory without distorting. So we're going to select that frequency at 80 hertz or 100 hertz, wherever you find it's clearer. These speakers aren't going to play much lower than 80 without really distorting at high volumes. But by enacting this filter, it does a roll-off. So that bass isn't gone. It's just cut down enough that the speakers don't distort. It gives us clearer audio and louder audio. So if you're not wanting to spend thousands of dollars removing the Rockford amp, upgrading all your speakers, then this may be an awesome solution for you to get your audio loud enough to hear it while riding. And with this filter, we're protecting from blowing the speakers. We know Boom Audio, Boom 1, Boom 2, and Rockford are notorious for blowing speakers trying to get it loud enough to hear. You're going to have some protection built in now to keep that from happening and get that extra volume. We'll listen here shortly. We also have balance and fader. I'll tell you, if you don't have HD Audio by Rockford, this is going to work. If you have the HD Audio by Rockford with these later firmware updates, balance and fader are also going to work. That is digitally done in the amp. This will work if you have Boom 1 or Boom 2, or if you have an aftermarket amp, or if you do not have an amp. Fader will work correctly, and we have access to it right here. No need to flash on rear speakers when you've put a new radio in. No need to ever have Harley flash anything about this radio, which is great. That's normally got a cost associated with it and a trip to the dealership or a techno research flasher, depending on how you're doing it with the factory radio. So built-in 13-band EQ, front and rear crossovers that are adjustable. I love the fact that we have subwoofer ability, so it has sub RCA outs on the back. If you add drop-in subs like Precision Power is coming out with, or you have other subs, we now have control over that. We have subwoofer output. We can turn it on or off. We can select crossovers for the subwoofer as well as the overall level, so we can turn our sub up and down from this radio. I'm going to go back to the previous screen here and go over a few more things with you. We have amp turn on delay, and then in this radio, something we didn't have before, we have source level adjustment. So we can actually go in now, and if your FM is lower than Bluetooth or CarPlay, which it normally is, you can even that out. Take your loudest source, leave it alone, because we don't want to make it where we end up clipping amplifiers. Bring your lower sources up to meet those volumes, and you can do that on screen on this radio. Also, to me, it's really important on a beautiful bike like this that the radio looks good. And so they give us the ability in our display settings to actually change the color of our buttons to match the color of our gauges. I think you'll notice that it looks much better than the factory radio, and we also have the ability to change our wallpapers. So for instance, right now I have a dark background so you can see it easier, but I can do a custom background. Like here's a CVO bag. All you have to do is download any image to a USB flash drive and in a JPEG format, plug it in, and you can actually create that as your new background. So as you notice here, I have a side bag on a CVO here. We could do just a logo. We could do so many other things inside of here. I love all the adjustments and ability they've given us to make it look better because it definitely looks way better. The screen's more vibrant, it's brighter, and with all of this, it looks way better than the GTS radio does. And that would have been your pinnacle option before, but at the same time, fixing all the audio issues that we had from the GTS radio. Let's back up here. I want to plug up, well, first, let's listen to this with some copyright-free music. I want to show you how loud and clear the HD audio by Rockford is. And then we'll come back to, I'll show you Apple CarPlay and the new cursor control through thumb controls. All right, so earlier this year, we did a full set of videos on HD audio by Rockford. We went over everything about it, how it worked, how to upgrade it, and in that, we did some sound tests on it. I'll tell you, while it was turned up, I could hold a conversation with Eric, my cameraman, right with it all the way up. We didn't have to yell over it. It was crazy how low the overall volume seemed to be. Well, I want to show you this. We've got to play copyright-free music, but I'm going to show you just how loud and clear it goes now. Let's turn this on up. To show you another function you don't have factory. If you hold in on the left control, it mutes the radio. So much louder than the factory Rockford, HD audio by Rockford on the GTS radio. And there's nothing you can do to make it louder with that stock radio than to replace everything. Now we have you a solution. It took Soundstream making you a great radio to make that HD audio by Rockford system finally sound good. So very, very impressed. Boom 1 guys, Boom 2 guys, expect the same results, that you're going to get more volume because you can properly set the filters to take the distortion out of the speakers, and we're sending a stronger input into those amps. Now, can you go to volume 50? No. Go to 50, you're going to notice it starts to distort, and it's too much because we're sending too much input into those factory amps. But listen to it, go to where it's loud and clear, and you'll see it's substantially louder. On this seems to be about volume 40 than what the original setup was. But super impressive, still plenty of steps in our volume. Way, way better. All right, let's move on to CarPlay and show you how it works. All right, so this is one of the most exciting features to me from the new Soundstream Reserve SI is with their partnership with idatalink Maestro, we have full computer, what they call CAN, or computer area network control of our thumb controls. That means we can do things that weren't available on the Scosche module that's used on the HDHU14 So whether you had an older Sony 7000 install or the HDHU14 install, you had very basic thumb controls for audio only. You could change tracks, you could change source, you could mute it, you could do volume up and down, but you really couldn't do anything with vehicle data because it didn't keep it, and you also could not do cursor control in Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So I'm going to show you that now. So from our thumb controls, I can actually use this right button, the one that would have been used with the factory nav. Now I can go through CarPlay and I can pick a source, such as say Maps. I'll go into Maps, I can go down to Search, I can grab a point of interest. Let's just say I want to look for a restaurant. I'll go down, I'll grab Connor's Steakhouse here in Knoxville, great place. I've got it brought up, I can hit go.
Starting route to Connor's Steak and Seafood.
I've already, from
East on Norwood Drive.
All right, so we're gonna go and cancel that so it doesn't talk while I tell you the rest. But you can fully control your CarPlay and your nav screen through your thumb controls. This makes it so much safer. You can do things like bring up vehicle info. So now I can look at my air pressure from simply pressing a button. I can hold that and I can bring up gauges. I can go over here and I can change my sources back to CarPlay. And I can do all of these without ever touching the screen. On the other radios, you would have had to have touched the screen at times, so much better. Every button is dual function. For instance, I can press this button and change sources, or I can hold this button and I can mute the radio. So we can set up every button to do two separate functions, and when you buy from Volunteer Audio, we're going to pre-flash your Maestro RR, not only to make this a super easy install where it's just plug and play, bolt it in and you're done, but we're also going to set all of your thumb controls up for you preset to the best layout to make it the safest and the easiest for you to use. So I'm ready to pull this radio out. We're going to throw it in a 19 CVO. I'm going to go through the gauge functionality with you, all the things it can do, how to lay it out. After that, we're going to pull it out. I'm going to throw it in a 2014 Electra Glide Police. I'm going to do that to show you guys that didn't have a radio, had the 4.3-inch boom radio, or maybe you had the GT radio, just how much functionality you're going to gain on that older bike as well. So keep watching. Don't go anywhere. There's still a lot to learn, and we're going to put this in the next bike. All right, so here we are. I've got Eric's 2019 CVO Roadglide. Probably one of my favorite bikes I ever get to work on. I work on a lot of beautiful bikes, but this one is just so clean and so well done. I want you to see how this radio looks in this bike as well. If you notice, it looks really good with the gauges. And in this case, we are actually on our gauge screen. That's brought up by simply pressing the info button or the back arrow and holding it. One quick press gives you the motorcycle info screen. Holding it takes you to gauges. All right, so when you're there, as you notice, preset, it's going to have voltage, miles per hour, intake temperature, RPM, and your twist grip. So if I twist my throttle, you'll see it goes up here. But all of this is customizable. I can hit settings. I can change. Let's select our gauges. So center gauge. Under center gauge, I can do our OBD2 readings, throttle position, RPM, and 0 to 60. Now I like RPM being there, so I'm going to leave it there, but I wanted to show you some of the options. Top left, I can also do vehicle speed, 0 to 60, O2 readings. Each one of these is going to be a little different. Top right, now I have instantaneous fuel economy, intake air temperature, cylinder 1 and 2's ionization, knock count front and rear, manifold, map sensor, quarter mile, rear adaptive fuel, rear closed loop integrator, rear O2 sensor voltage, rear spark advance. So many, we can just keep going. Rear wideband, O2 air fuel ratio, rear tire pressure, rear knock retard. You get the idea. The full data stream that your dealership can view on their Harley computer can be brought up as a gauge. So if you're having an issue or there's just something you want to monitor, you can simply bring this up and you can pick that. How much acceleration you have, fuel economy, external air temp, external air temperature, engine temperature, engine temp sensor. So many options. I'd counted before and there were about 60 different data options that could be done. This is a 2019 CVO. All of these are going to work. And very, very soon with a software update to the idatalink module, it'll work on the 2021 and 22s also. So I'm showing you what you're going to be getting, quarter mile times. I mean, stuff that you did not have options to see from the factory. So let's back up. I'm going to start it up. I'm going to let you see that the gauges are working because you can't see RPM without it running. So let's fire the bike up. All right, so it brought us to info screen because for a second it told us oil pressure was low. Now it says oil is okay, no check engine light, engine's okay. Back to our gauges. You see our current RPM, air intake, air temperature, as well as our voltage of our battery. Twist grip. See it go up as soon as I hit the throttle. We'll turn it back off so you can hear me better, but you get the idea. As you've seen, a pop-up just came up. I should have turned it all the way off, but I did. It says check oil because we just had oil pressure. It sees the oil pressure dropped. This is awesome because if you ever have an oil pressure issue while running, this screen's going to pop up no matter what you're on. It does it in Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Bluetooth, FM, AM, FM, it doesn't matter. That screen's going to come up. No other radio can do that currently. That is something only in this radio. We also have gear selector to show you what gear you're in. Some of these bikes have a sensor for that, some do not. So it'll show you if it does. Love the look, love the functionality. Eric was kind of set on the GTS factory radio till he saw this. Now this bike is not only getting an upgrade with subwoofers, but it's getting a new radio so we can control those subs and all of that sound even better. You know, with the factory radio, we were forced, no matter what we did, we had to flash the radio to get better sound. And that kind of masked a lot of issues. It fixed some, it masked some others, but without having to go back to the dealer or get a technical research tool, there's no need to ever have to flash this radio where you have to pay for it. You may do software updates in the future to add features or make it even better, but all of that is free and at no cost. But this radio is, instead of masking a GTS radio with flashing it and even maybe adding a DSP to hide some of the issues it had, you start with an excellent source, excellent sound adjustment, everything you need to build an amazing audio system. And if you are really big into your audio system and you want to get the most out of everything else you've bought, you've got to get this radio. If you have factory boom amps, factory Rockford amps, it's going to sound louder, clearer with this radio. No matter what, this is going to give you overall better sound, but now we're adding all of these great features as well. Now let's back up to the home screen. I haven't talked yet about the camera input. It does have a camera input on the back of the radio. So you can put a camera at the front or the rear. I would say most people are going to put it on the back. And when you hit the camera icon, it's going to bring it up, showing you your back fender, so you can back into a parking spot and not hit that curb or not hit something with your bike. Another option is to leave it on for a blind spot if you're trying to change into another lane. Full face helmets always have some blind spots. You could cover that with a camera too. Sirius XM, we touched on it a little bit earlier today with an SXV 300 tuner. That tuner is $35 and currently you get a $70 mail-in rebate when you buy it. So you make $35 by adding Sirius XM. If you added Sirius XM to your factory radio, it's going to cost you about $400 to do that same thing. So much better to put it on here, and you're going to get the latest Sirius XM capable tuner. You're going to have more channels, you're going to have more content. It's going to work better than what you could on that factory radio. The GTS radio also had a very low rate of charging on its USB. This one has a 2 amp or 10 watt charging for the USB, so your phone's going to charge faster. We also have more power for the next thing we want to talk about. So the way it comes, it has wired Apple CarPlay, wired Android Auto. You got to plug a cord in. That's okay for most people, especially if you got a Roadglide and your phone fits in the pocket. If you want to add wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, we have adapters that plug in. Those adapters work better with stronger power sources. So that added amperage and wattage is also going to make those wireless CarPlay and Android Auto adapters work better. We'll do a video soon on a new one we have. It does Netflix, it does YouTube. You'll be able to view full video on screen. It's pretty amazing. We'll go over that in a future video. But let's pull this radio out. We'll move it over to our Electra Glide Police, and I want to show you just how much functionality you'll have, even if you have that very base model bike instead of this Pinnacle CVO bike. All right, so we've got the radio in our Electra Glide Police bike. I just wanted to show you the gauge options that are available on probably the bike with the least number of sensors and the least amount of data to share in the lineup. Electra Glide Standards and Electra Glide Police are going to be very similar in what they have to offer. If you've got a Street Glide, an Ultra, a Road Glide, or even a regular Electra Glide, you're going to probably find out that you have more options and sensors on your engine. It's just a more expensive bike. It's going to have more settings. But inside of here, we're going to be able to go to settings. We're going to go to select gauges, and you're going to find out that we still have about 60 different options. You can change the top of unit. You can do a minimum or max or peak inside. The things that you don't have sensors for are normally going to be grayed out. Like in this case, it's gear position, tire pressure monitor. We don't have front or rear tire pressure monitors on a 14. So you're going to see that even when we're back in that info screen that it says not available because this bike didn't have it. It did have EITMS. It did have it does monitor if the engine is okay as far as check engine light. It'll still pop up and monitor if we have an issue with, say, fuel. Because right now, if you notice, it doesn't say engine oil okay. This bike doesn't have a factory oil pressure sensor, so it's not going to display oil pressure. But every factory feature is going to be there, plus these really cool gauges that you can set for things like 0 to 60 time, quarter mile time, your mile per hour, your voltage, air temperature, intake temperature, engine temperature. All of these things work. It's so awesome how many different options you have. You can play with this and lay out 2 different sets of gauges, a page 1 and a page 2, so you can have that day to day. I want to see my engine, and then I want to go show off page 2 where you do those performance settings. But I wanted to show you this because it's really awesome, all the different things you can do, even on this old bike. So you guys that had the 4.3-inch boom, didn't have a radio like this, or had the old GT radio, this radio works for you also. Now, you could buy the HDHU14 Plus, and it's an amazing radio, and add CarPlay and Android Auto and have this look, but you won't get the gauge information, the Sirius XM, the camera input, the motorcycle info like you do on the SI. So I think at the difference in cost between these radios, I mean, this is a $999 radio. It takes a $160 module to make this work, so you're $1,160 versus the HDHU14 Plus is an $800 radio with a $69 module, so it's actually $868.99. You're about $300 difference to add Sirius XM, motorcycle info, gauge info, and keep in mind, if you just added Sirius XM to a GT radio, you're going to spend more than $400. So that add-on cost. Now you could do Sirius XM on the HDHU14 Plus through CarPlay or Android Auto. Much better, in my opinion, to have a standalone Sirius XM. I do a lot of short trips. I don't have time to even go on my phone and pick a song, so I love Sirius XM for that. They've got great channels. I love the message on there, and we just pop it on there and play it. Somebody else picks out the music. So I wanted to show you we still have custom. I've changed to orange so it matches my factory gauges. We can do custom background images. This is a police bike, maybe a thin blue line or something would be nice in the background on it. But so many features in this radio, and if you've got a 14 or newer bike, this is the pinnacle option, the best option for the best sound and the most features for your bike. All right, so I'm going to pull it out and we're going to do a comparison to all the other options that you had previous to this and try to make sure you fully understand what you're going to get and the very few things that this radio doesn't do. So we'll go over that in the next part. So hang out, we've got more to cover. All right, so I've showed you this radio installed in 3 different bikes, hoping to show you the feature set, how it works, and answer more questions on why you would or wouldn't want this radio. Now I want to show you the quality of the radio and how it's built. So most aftermarket radios are a little thin, stamped cage, not water resistant at all, and when you change out your radio, you're really downgrading the quality. This is a full aluminum chassis. It looks exactly like the chassis on the GTS radio, built in the same exact design, and on the back of it we have this really awesome watertight disconnect that is the factory Harley plug. Now it's going to come shipped with this complete plug and play harness where you unplug the factory radio, plug it into here, put your radio in, and you're going to be up and running. It's that easy. There is no wiring to do. This harness allows us to add this idatalink Maestro module. Maestro has been around for a long time. They are the top company as far as quality in getting data from your vehicle to your radio. They're the reason the gauges work, the thumb controls work so well, and all that bike info is displayed, even those pop-up screens, is from the partnership that Soundstream has with idatalink Maestro. If you were to buy another Maestro-compatible radio, most likely it doesn't fit in your fairing and isn't waterproof, because this is the only IPX water-rated radio. We can pressure wash this radio and it will still play. I've got an upcoming video where we're going to do a torture test, water test on this radio just for you to find out how much it will handle. Now, don't pressure wash your radio. It's not recommended, but I'm going to show you what it could do and what it'll take care of. Now, on top of that, keep in mind it's got a 2-year warranty as well. It is built to last. That's how we can 2-year warranty the radio. We're a full year in on the HDHU14 Plus. It's been phenomenal. A lot of naysayers said it's not going to last. We're not sure about Soundstream. We don't have any experience with them, and we're worried about the quality. Well, a year in, I can tell you the quality has been amazing. Ronnie, Brandon, they've done a great job. No corners have been cut. A first model came out at a price point. A second model came out at a slightly higher price point and added a bunch of features that you wanted and we wanted. This harness is also going to have exposed speaker wires. You can actually cut here, and now you've not cut any wiring in the bike, and you have high level input and output to the bike from an aftermarket amplifier. So they've included a harness to make it easier on you to add an amp. At Volunteer Audio, we're gonna have a lot of plug and play amp options to easily plug in, preset for the output of this radio to make it a complete plug and play kit. But back to this Maestro module, this module has to be flashed for your bike. That way, the module knows it's connected to not only the Soundstream radio, and it does that with the serial number of the radio that's on the outside of your box. It's easy to find, but it also, you tell it what kind of bike you have. We're going to pre-flash at Volunteer Audio this module for you. It's a very simple process to flash it. I'm making a whole nother video just to show you how, in case you want to change the way your thumb controls are laid out, or if you've maybe got a 20, 21, 22, and they do this later software revision, you can go back in and update it. So I'll show you how to do that in another video, but when you buy from Volunteer Audio, we're going to pre-flash it. We're going to make it super easy so that when you get it, you really bolt it in, you plug it in. It uses the factory USB port. So your factory USB that's in there now, when you unplug it from the factory radio, will plug right into here. Now, as a note, if you have an Electra Glide Police, an Electra Glide Standard, or you had the Sony radio that you've already put in your bike, you will need a factory USB cable. There are packages at volunteeraudio.com for a police bike that come with all the police wiring, the USB, the antenna, everything you need. We have another package for Electra Glide Standard to come with the additional parts you need for that. We try to make this super easy, so when you buy your radio, you can put it straight in your bike and have everything needed to do that. RCA outs, we have front, rear, and sub out. There's also this little rubber block off to keep it watertight for your Sirius XM module. So your SXV300 will plug in right there and give you Sirius XM capability. It's right here in our box. You can buy this at volunteeraudio.com for $35, so normally $70, and you're gonna get a $70 mail-in rebate, so you're actually gonna make money putting this on your bike. And then we have our microphone input. If you want to be able to use Siri hands-free or your voice assistant, you'll need to install the mic that's included with the radio. And we have a camera input. Not only is it a camera input, but it has a camera power supply. So if you add a camera on the back of your bike, this is going to power it up at the same time that it displays it on the screen simply by picking the camera source. You can do that from your thumb controls or by touching the screen. Amazing built radio. This is not a car radio or a boat radio put in a Harley. This is a Harley radio built from the ground up. Half the cost roughly of a GTS radio with none of the problems that the GTS radio has. Now with that, I will note this. The only thing the GTS radio can do that this radio won't do right now is wireless headsets and CB capability. Every other option this retains, this does. And then we add a lot of features. The custom gauge display. No need to flash it to correct bad sound issues that we had out of the GTS radio. You may not know this, but the GTS radio normally comes without the rear speakers even turned on. You gotta go back to Harley and have that turned on. The EQ's terrible, so we have to use a techno research tool to reflash it to a boom amp setup to fix the EQ. The actual EQ changes when you start the bike and it takes the bass out. We normally have to flash the radio to fix that. If you want Apple CarPlay, you have to get a jumper or you have to flash it. I think you get the idea. Harley's got you in this loop where you have to go back and pay them or flash it to add additional features, and with this radio, you no longer have to do that. We have a better display. It's more vibrant. It's optically bonded and brighter. It's easier to see in the daylight. Everything about this radio was thought out for your Harley. The camera input, the custom background ability we showed you earlier, the ability to customize the button color. And then we get into the GTS radio, doesn't even have any kind of adjustable EQ other than a very basic bass and treble. We have 13-band EQ, high pass and low pass filter adjustment, the ability to control a subwoofer separate. There's so much in this that you do not have with your GTS radio. So I think you get the idea. It's less money, it does more, it's definitely the better option. But I'm gonna compare each one of these radios we have here and kind of give you the idea of what you're gonna gain. All right, so a lot of you had a very basic or even no radio, and I wanna talk about who benefits the most from buying this radio. So we had a lot of questions early on. Soundstream put out this chart that said what radio was best for what customer, and it confused some people into thinking that if you had that Electra Glide Police or Electra Glide Standard that had no radio, that you really needed the HDHU14 Plus, and a lot of people thought we couldn't use the SI radio. We showed you in the video earlier, it works on the Police bike and the Electra Glide Standard. Obviously, you know, you have no radio now. This is a huge improvement. AM, FM, Bluetooth, CarPlay, Android Auto, all the features of that GTS radio with half the cost of having to buy one. It's cheaper than buying a used one. Most of the time we see about $1,400 for the used cost of that GTS radio. I think that's going to go way down now that this radio's out. But anyways, so if you had that pocket style radio, no radio, that's the huge improvement. Now the GT or the 4.3, at this point your radio looks terrible. It's gotten old. You've got a beautiful bike, but most likely your display, your buttons, they faded and they look bad, and we're going to bring you into looking like you have a new bike. But we're also adding these features. You had super slow Bluetooth. You had terrible navigation. Now you're going to have quick connection to your phone, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, better EQ, better sound, data information you didn't have before, like your bike info and these custom gauges, the ability to make it look better with custom backgrounds and custom colors. You get the idea. It's a huge improvement over your GT radio. Now let's talk about the guys that already upgraded. So used to, a year ago actually, we didn't have any other option but to go with a Sony radio. We sold a bunch of them at Volunteer Audio, but I'll tell you, they definitely had their flaws that this SI takes care of. This added Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you couldn't control it through your thumb controls. The display was very dim and you couldn't see it in the light because it wasn't optically bonded. If it got wet, most likely you had trouble till it dried out, and eventually the radio failed altogether. So you get the idea. You spent a lot of money, you put it in your bike, it sounded good when it was working. Also could not retain any of the data information, none of the gauge information. So such a huge improvement to step up now to the new SI radio. But keep in mind, you probably took your factory USB out. You're going to need to get one of those to change to this new radio. Now, the question that we're going to get over and over and over, should I take my GTS radio out and upgrade to the SI? And if I do it, why would I do it? We do a tremendous amount of installations here at Volunteer Audio. I build bike after bike after bike where we retain the factory GTS radio, because people want things like the factory nav to work. They want, they feel like that's good. They've maybe done a jumper to get CarPlay. They've got things that they're afraid they're going to lose when they change it. But now keep in mind, I'm flashing that radio to try to fix a terrible sound issue. And we've already found out in the last year that the HDHU14 that's the cheaper option from Soundstream, sounds so much better than this radio. I'd say it's at least a 10 to 15% better sound by changing to the Soundstream radio. We're getting that because we have cleaner input signal, stronger input signal. And anybody that tells you the factory radio is the end-all pinnacle thing that you need to put in your bike needs to take a look at those factory speakers too. Because when Harley can cut corners and cost, they do it. They did it in this radio, and they tried to put you in a loop where you had to go back and to get anything else to work, buy additional parts or have it flashed. Harley, we're onto your game, and we've got a better solution. But knowing that it's going to sound better was only part of it. It looks better too. The new radio with its backgrounds and its better button colors and all the things that we can do make it look a lot better in your bike. Now we have gauges that are custom, and we can show so much more info than that factory radio did. The advanced thumb controls that are remappable, we can make them do whatever we want. We can make it where we can easily get through our Android Auto and our Apple CarPlay. We can use a microphone that comes with it to use our voice assistant instead of being stuck with a headset. We have a 13-band equalizer in the SI. We have those high-pass filters, the low-pass filters, the sub-control. The list goes on and on. The camera input. There is so many benefits to the SI radio over the GTS radio. I will not be recommending any of my customers that do not have a GTS radio to buy one. They need to buy the SI. It's going to be a better value for them. They get a 2-year warranty instead of buying a used radio. Now, if you're wanting to build an awesome audio system and you're not happy with what you currently have with your GTS, I'm going to be recommending that you upgrade your radio also. You're going to gain these features. Everything's going to be better. It's going to sound better. And overall, you're going to be happier as one of our customers. And at the end of the day, that's all we care about. We want happy customers. We want accurate information given to you so you can make the best decisions. So I think you get the idea. The GT radio is not the best radio for your bike. The SI is. And the only time when we would tell you we can't help you, you need to stick with the factory radio, is going to be the guy that needs a headset connected to the radio. Understand, your headset will not connect to the SI radio, but your headsets will still communicate to other headsets, so you can still talk in your group. You can still connect to your phone to answer phone calls. You just cannot send voice prompts or audio from your phone to your headset. We find that most customers don't even have a WIM. They don't have headsets connected to begin with, and that's not a big deal. And the ability to add all these other features, I still think the Sirius XM one is a huge one. If you have a GTS radio and you don't have Sirius XM, it's $400+ at the dealer to get the little card that goes in the back to add it. You'll make $35 adding it to an SI. It's just a no-brainer. But this is my comparison between all the radios. I've showed you what it looks like in all the bikes. I've showed you all the features. I'm going to tell you right now, hats off. My hat is off. I think that they did a wonderful job. There's nothing been overlooked, nothing been left out. I'm sure they'll have more amazing features in the future for us. And keep watching. We're going to do more videos. I'm going to do a video on exactly how to flash this module, step by step. So if you want to change things, you can do it easily on your own. There's no special tools needed. I watched another video, said you had to buy some $50 harness. You don't have to. It comes in the box with it. We'll go over that. We'll show you how to do it. It's a very, very easy process. So if you want the most accurate information, continue to watch Volunteer Audio. I'll be doing step-by-step install videos and all the different kinds of bikes, showing you how to add amps and add speakers, how to take an RTA and set up the EQ. All these things are coming in the future, so please subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below with questions or things you want to see that maybe I haven't covered. But I'm so excited. 2023 is going to be a great year, and Soundstream has turned the world on its head in the motorcycle audio game this year. Between the Roadglide radio for the 98 to 13, the Street Glide version coming in the future for the older bikes, and this SI radio, they are so far ahead, nobody's going to catch up. And we're so excited to be partners with them and online authorized dealers. Now keep in mind, you can only buy this radio at an authorized dealer. It's not going to be on eBay. It's not going to be on Amazon. Go to volunteeraudio.com. You can buy it there. We have plenty of them coming in stock. We're like 2 days away from having great inventory on them. So please check out volunteeraudio.com. The link will be above me to go straight to the radio. It'll also be in the description to get to our other packages and everything we build around this radio. Thank you so much for watching. We love doing this channel, and we're so blessed to have you watching and subscribing to it. God bless, and I hope you have a great day.